let's come up with some advice about a woman who is struggling with a cheating husband. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I have been counseling men and women who have been victims and perpetrators of abuse. I have a listener, comment or question. She says, when I joined TikTok, I learned about narcissistic personality, and I was able to see what I was going through with my husband. He has recently abandoned me again after I gave birth to our son. He did the same thing with our daughter and promised he wouldn't do it anymore. He has left and come back 6 to 8 times. Basically, I know he wanted to cheat in peace. He has a sex and a pornography addiction. When he left again, I blocked him and went no contact for a month. He has not sent me any money for daycare. I finally reached out Friday asking him to send funds, and he tells me he can't because he's trying to get a car. Faceplant. I'm paying all these bills and $2,500 a month for daycare while he lays up at his homeboy's house. Now he's gonna tell me he got baptized and is trying to do better. First he tells me we're better off apart. Then he says he's coming back in 2 months once he works on himself. Then he tells me when he comes back, if I start arguing, he's going to leave again. But the argument is for him not helping me financially and the cheating. Sorry, just trying to make sense of that last sentence. Okay, so this is an interesting question. Again, it's a very common scenario with women who are married and have, to a partner that may have narcissistic traits, right? So this person is looking specifically for advice for her situation. Again, as I always tell people whenever, I talk to you guys and I'm responding to a very specific question, I don't have all the details. I have what's written here. I always recommend you guys seek the advice of a licensed mental health professional in your area that can work with you one-on-one and come up with a more detailed question. With that being said, it sounds like you know what you're dealing with here. I don't know how old your children are, but it sounds like you've got babies. From what I gather, you've got babies, you've got some huge bills, and you're sort of you're waiting on like this sort of miracle epiphany for him to get it together and decide that he wants to be, that he wants to be with his family and he wants to take care of his family. Judging from what you're telling me, though, your fantasy and your reality are totally different. You're trying to have rational discussion with someone who's not rational, and he's wanting to do what he wants to do. If he's laying up over at his homeboy's house when he has a family with babies at home, something is amiss, and I would consider looking into the relationship with the homeboy, if you catch my drift, because that's not a normal thing and it's very immature. Being that he's leaving you financially destitute, you've got all these bills you can't pay, he's not offering to help pay. You're pretty much a single parent already, in my opinion, and one, you're trying to have a conversation with someone who isn't rational. I would stop trying to have a conversation with someone who isn't rational, and I would look more into sort of connecting more or building more of a tribe with people who are going to show up for me. So I would put less energy and effort into someone who's not making effort into your family, into your marriage, and go out and try to find your support system, because it's clear that he's saying that, hey, I've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm going to leave whenever I feel like it. So he's setting it up to tell you that he's not a sure thing. Don't depend on me because you piss me off. The wind blows hard it rains tomorrow, I'm going to be out the door. Like, that's essentially what he's telling you. He's telling you, I'm not dependable, therefore don't look to me for support. I'm not going to be here for that. He's also trying to have his cake and eat it too by telling you that he's baptized and that he's a changed man. Again, people don't change overnight. I would say it takes a minimum of, with all the stuff that you've mentioned that's going on with him, I would say it takes a minimum of 2 years of working with a professional, like a minimum of consistently going every week and working with a licensed mental health professional that is trained to work with his stuff, right? And so I would not accept that as less. Anything else, he's just blowing smoke. And listen, I work with these people all day, every day, so I know enough to tell you that 2 years minimum, and even then, it's not really a sure thing, because a lot of times people who even go to professionals, they're not consistent, they lie, right? Or they blame you for all their problems. And at this point, you're spending more energy trying to convince him to be a father, be a husband, be responsible, to pay bills, when in all actuality, your energy is better spent figuring out how to make this work for yourself, because like I said, you're already a single parent. The other liability that you have, if someone has a sex and porn addiction, I'm assuming that he may be getting sex away from you. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's also a liability. So your health may be at risk. Whenever he comes back from wherever he's been, homeboys or whatever, I would not engage in intimate relations with him unless he has a full STD panel. And you would need to see it and or maybe go to the doctor, because and honestly, I wouldn't even recommend doing it. But I understand that you're married, and that it is what it is for your situation, but you always want to make sure that you're taking care of your health. Someone like this sounds like they're very reckless and impulsive, so they're not necessarily thinking about their actions, and love has got nothing to do with it. This man is just running on hopes and dreams at this point. He also sounds like he's like very, very unstable. He's trying to get a car. You're talking about daycare. He's talking about trying to get a car. So you guys are having two different conversations. Honestly, you guys actually might even be having 3 or 4 different conversations. Like you guys aren't anywhere on the same page at this point. So that's something that you may want to consider. You're talking about apples. He's talking about being in a rodeo, essentially. That's how much of a different page that you're on. So you guys aren't communicating properly. You also seem to believe that the arguments are intentional about him not helping you financially, and so that he can go cheat. In my opinion, you kind of know everything that you need to know. So act accordingly. You don't really need permission, so it sounds like maybe part of the advice is like you might want permission to sort of act accordingly. You don't need that. You just do what you need to do, but remain true to yourself, and do what you need to do for yourself and for your children. Someone who's left and come back 6 to 8 times is basically someone who's abandoned the marriage. So basically, I would treat it as such. He's abandoning you. He's abandoning the children. It won't be long. There's going to become a certain point when someone's sort of in and out like that, they're looking for a better opportunity. So at some point, he may feel like he has that and abandon you altogether. So you may want to do yourself a solid and end things. Again, that's my advice before he does, because he's in and out. When people are in and out, they're looking for better opportunities elsewhere. They're sort of sampling, they're dibbling and dabbling and seeing what they can get. And that's purely ego, because he thinks that he's the stuff. And so he feels like he can find better, and this isn't really his jam. Hope this helps. Thank you for asking. Like, follow, and share.